Hi there, this is Mrs. Piper, and we're continuing the painting stage of our Aaron Douglas inspired figurative painting. And the last time we left off, I was going to be doing yellow in my sky. Between then and now, I have changed my mind, so I have done another mock-up for of my rough draft for my color planning, and I have decided to use a blue-violet sky with a gray city and then a blue-green tree color. So I'm changing color plans, but everything else has stayed the same. I've got my composition and I have transferred it onto my final watercolor paper, and we know that I have to paint the background first. Again, remember, you have to paint everything that is furthest from the viewer first. So in this instance, I'm going to be painting my sky first, my cityscape second, then my trees and the stage, and then the fans and the two figures on the stage. So I'm going to be starting up here in the sky. And if you recall, last video I showed you these little cups. I wrote my name on one of them, and this is the cup that I'm going to be mixing my paint in. I need to look at my sky, and I realize that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different blues plus a little one in the corner, but I'm not really going to worry about that because I don't need to waste a cup to make just a tiny little drop of the paint. So I know that I want blue violet, so I'm going to start with my violet. I'm going to move my picture out of the way so that I don't get paint on it. I'm going to start with my violet tempera and my blue tempera, and of course my white. So when you're mixing your color, when you're making it, you can use the color straight out of the jar, but I wanted a blue violet, so I needed to mix the two colors together. So I'm putting a few drops of purple, my violet, and then I'm putting a few drops of the blue. This will make my darkest color. Now, if I am mixing up the color and I realize I need it even darker, I would look at the color wheel, and opposite of blue violet, I'm going to see is yellow orange. So I would have to add a drop of yellow and a drop of orange if I needed to make this color even darker. But I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to stir the two together, and I have my darkest blue violet. Now, in order to make the different values for my Aaron Douglas composition, I have to add white in other containers. Now, I'm going to move my paint out of the way, and I'm going to show you my other containers. I have taken my jar of blue violet and I've poured a little bit of it into another container, and I've added white. So this one's a little bit lighter. I added more white, so this one is lighter still, and this one is my lightest. I've added a lot of white. So now I have 4 blue violet colors, and they're different values of my color. I hope you can see those okay. Now, as I look at my composition, I realize even my lightest blue is still pretty dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more white to every single one of them, except probably, well, at least to the first 2. I'm going to add a little more white, and that way I make sure that I have a very, very light blue sky. Now, for this process, you're going to need your cup of water, you're going to need your brush, and I've got a big brush for mixing, and I have a small brush for my trim work, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But I need to lighten this blue. So I'm going to take the lid off, and I'm going to put a few more drops of white in, and make sure you move your painting away, because what you don't want to do, you don't want to be squirting paint out and get it on your artwork. So I'm going to take my white, I'm going to put a couple of more drops, just like that. You can see there's not a lot of paint in there. Don't waste the paint. If you fill these jars, you're making way too much paint. So I'm going to take that white, I'm going to take my big mixing brush, and I'm going to mix the two together to make it even lighter still. Okay, so this is going to be my lightest blue. And remember, I've drawn my concentric circles onto my composition, and my lightest blue is right here. I hope you all can see that okay. So I'm going to take my smallest brush, and this is a detail brush so you can see, and what I'd like to do is zoom in so that you all can see my Capitol building, my UT Tower, my office buildings, and this is the sky behind them. Remember, you're not allowed to outline the circle in black, so you just have to paint everything in that area with the lightest color. So notice I'm putting the paint directly onto my brush. It's fully loaded, and then the tip of my brush is where I have the most control. So I'm going to take the tip of my brush and I'm going to lay it next to the Capitol, and I'm going to drag it down. And I'm going to use this small detail brush to go in and outline every part of the shapes that are in this lightest area. Now, instead of moving my hand or my arm around, you'll notice I'm just going to take my paper and I'm going to rotate it. And that way, because I'm right-handed, I can just take the tip of my brush and I can paint in that area right up to the edge of that building. I'm going to dip it in my paint as often as I need. If I make a mistake, if I sprinkle some paint where it doesn't belong, at this point it doesn't matter because this is the first area I painted, so anything outside of that area will end up being painted over. So if you make a mistake, try not to worry too much about it because you'll be able to paint over any mistakes that you make. So I'm using this lightest blue to paint in this area, and notice I'm rotating my paper to make painting the edges easier. I'm dragging this super fine brush into all of the areas that I need, and then I'm filling it in. Now this is a small area, so I'm just filling it in with the small brush, but remember, you've got the larger brush. Mine happens to be sitting in the water, so if I need a larger area filled in, if I don't want to use this small brush, I can go ahead and get my larger brush to fill it in. But this seems to be working pretty well. And once this area is painted, do not throw away the paint. If you remember, you have made a little 1-ounce jar of the color you need, and you're using it up beautifully, but you've got a lot left over, right? There's still a lot in there. So later on, if I need to go back and correct any mistakes, I will have this color. And what you might want to do, remember you put your name on it with a Sharpie marker? You might also want to write lightest blue. And that way, you know exactly which color it is, because you're going to be putting your paint away with everybody else's, and your name needs to be on it, and the label of what color it is needs to be on it. You'll notice I'm rotating my painting so that I can see the last part of the circle. And notice I'm moving it so that the tip of the brush can be used just like a pencil. and it can outline all the little details. And this concludes my lightest blue sky. It only took a few drops of paint, so don't overmake. I don't want this cup full. Look at mine. I hope you can tell it's almost empty, right? I only put a few drops in, okay? But now that I'm done with it, I'm going to place the brush in my cup of water. I'm going to take my lid, and I'm going to put my lid on top of it, and now I'm going to make sure that I do not throw away this paint because it's my lightest blue. Now, I have not marked my name on this one yet. I'll get an extra fine Sharpie and I'll write my name right there, okay? So you'll let that dry, and then this was the light blue. Now I'm going to the medium blue. So the next row of the sky will be this medium blue, and then the next row will be the darker blue, and the last row will be this very, very dark blue violet. Okay? I'm going to pause there, and I will come back just to make sure you see the finished sky. So I'll see you in just a few moments. Thank you for watching.